The old folks in town always warned us about these woods.
They called them haunted.
We didn't listen. My friends and I, we were brave, or so we thought. The sun was setting as we entered the woods. The trees loomed over us. Shadows stretched out like long fingers. We were here on a dare, but we were also curious. What secrets did these woods hold?
We joked to hide our nervousness.
But the woods were already starting to feel different. Colder, darker. The air hung heavy and still. I felt a shiver run down my spine. We were not alone. The first day in the woods was peaceful. Too peaceful. We hiked along the overgrown trails. Sunlight peeked through the dense canopy. The air was fresh and clean. We saw birds and squirrels, but no other animals.
We set up camp by a stream. The sound of running water was soothing.
We shared stories and laughed. We started to relax.
Maybe the stories about the woods were just stories. As the sun began to set, we built a fire. The flames crackled and danced, casting a warm glow.
We roasted marshmallows and told ghost stories.
We felt almost normal, but deep down, a tiny seed of doubt began to grow. Why was it so quiet? Where were the night sounds? The second day dawned bright. We decided to explore deeper into the woods. We followed a barely there path. It wound through towering trees and thick undergrowth.
The silence of the forest was starting to get to us.
Then we heard it, a faint whisper. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once.
We stopped, listening intently.
Was it the wind rustling the leaves or something else?
We continued on, our pace quickening. The whispers grew louder. They seemed to be calling our names. Our laughter died down. Fear crept into our hearts. Something was wrong. We needed to get out of these woods. Now. The third day arrived. The woods felt different, menacing. The whispers had turned to moans. They echoed through the trees, sending shivers down our spines. We were lost and terrified.
Every shadow seemed to hide something sinister.
Every rustle of leaves sounded like footsteps.
We were being watched, hunted.
We had to escape this nightmare, but the forest seemed to be closing in on us, trapping us in its grasp. We ran, our hearts pounding in our chests, but there was no escape. The woods had us now.
The moans were getting louder.
They seemed to be coming from a particular direction.
We had to find the source.
Maybe it held the key to our escape, or maybe it was a trap.
We had no choice but to find out.
We pushed through the undergrowth, our clothes torn and our bodies scratched.
The air grew colder as we approached the source of the sound.
The moans were almost deafening now.
Then we saw it.
A clearing up ahead.
And in the center, a dilapidated cabin.
The moans were coming from inside.
We hesitated.
Should we go in?
Or should we run while we still could?
Curiosity and maybe a touch of morbid fascination won out.
We crept towards the cabin.
The cabin was small and run down. The windows were boarded up. The door was made of thick, heavy wood, held shut with a rusted padlock.
The moans were even louder now, right on the other side of the door.
We tried to force the door open, but it wouldn't budge.
We took turns kicking and ramming it with our shoulders.
But the old wood held firm. We were desperate to get inside.
Finally, we found a heavy rock.
We used it to smash the padlock.
It broke open with a loud crack. We wasted no time in throwing open the door.
The stench that hit us was overpowering.
It smelled like decay and death.
The inside of the cabin was dark and dusty. Cobwebs hung from every corner.
The only light came from the open doorway. We could barely make out the shapes of furniture covered in sheets.
And then we saw them. Shadows moved in the darkness. They swirled and danced as if alive.
They seemed to converge in the center of the room, forming a dark, swirling mass. We were paralyzed with fear.
The shadows spoke. Their voices were deep and resonant, echoing around us. They told us we were chosen.
Chosen for what, we didn't know. But one thing was clear.
Our lives would never be the same.
The shadows spoke of a great evil. They said it was threatening to consume our world. They needed our help to stop it.
But we were just teenagers. What could we possibly do?
The shadows offered us a choice. We could join them and fight against the darkness. Or we could leave. But if we left, we would be forever changed. haunted by what we had seen and heard.
We looked at each other, our faces pale and drawn. Fear warred with a strange sense of duty.
We had stumbled into something bigger than ourselves, something ancient and terrifying.
But could we turn our backs on it?
We made our choice. We couldn't ignore the call. We agreed to help the shadows. They told us we were the chosen ones, destined to save the world from the coming darkness.
The shadows revealed our mission. We had to find 5 ancient artifacts. Each artifact held a piece of the key to defeating the evil.
Our journey would be long and dangerous, but we were determined to succeed.
The shadows bestowed upon us their power. We could now sense the presence of the artifacts. They were scattered across the globe. Our adventure was about to begin.
The cabin disappeared. We found ourselves back in the woods. The sun was shining. The birds were singing.
It was as if the horrors of the night before had never happened, but we knew better.
We were different now. Changed. We carried a heavy burden.
The fate of the world rested on our shoulders. We set off into the unknown. Our journey had just begun.
The shadows' voices echoed in our minds, guiding us, protecting us.
We were no longer ordinary teenagers. We were warriors, chosen ones, and we would not rest until our mission was complete. The fate of the world depended on it.